It has its own special rhythm.
Yeah, I should mention this to Substack. Like,
Mm.
there we go. We're live.
Ah,
We're live.
how about that?
That's amazing. Stephen, it's great to see you. Thank you for doing this with me. Hi, everybody.
Well,
Um,
it's my pleasure to be doing with you. I mean, we talked about doing this for a while and in different formats and live in reality or live online or what's the way to do it. But I'm excited we're at least
right.
doing it now.
You and I, we met on Substack, and then we had lunch before the new year to
Yeah,
talk about this and what, like, wanting to do something live to talk about the political situation right now, and just, if nothing else, to support each other. But also, we were looking at getting other people to join us. Maybe we'll do that eventually. But
right.
anyway, for people who come from your newsletter, I'll just say that, and we'll introduce each other
Okay.
individually. So I'm a cartoonist for the New Yorker and a writer for the New Yorker, and I've also worked for the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, CBS, and other places. And I've authored a bunch of books. My most recent one is Very Funny Ladies, about the women cartoonists of the New Yorker. And Steve and I also have this in common. I'm doing a documentary about that subject. And Steve, I know you've done some documentaries. So I think that I live in New York. Um, so maybe that's enough.
Well, there you go. And by the way, I reached out to you, or we reached out to each other, and partly because it's. I mean, I've been doing these last years a lot of political punditry, political journalism.
Hmm.
I'm going to try to get into the factual stuff, and that comes from a long career of doing journalism, both sort of feature reporting and writing for all these places, the New Yorker and the New
Hmm.
York Times and the Washington Post and
Hmm.
and on and on and on and on, which I've contributed to over the years. But I look at and I've made films both in the U.S. and in Europe, including in Russia, going back to the 1990s. But in all of this work, it's been important to try to make sense of things.
Hmm.
That's sort of what moves me. And in the last years, I've been, I was a professor of practice in Arizona for some years. I'm now a adjunct professor at NYU and actually teaching a long form narrative class right now with graduate students. And
Hmm.
so much of this time is with all of this is how do you make sense of things and how do you kind of manage your own responses to things in a way that's informed, but also helps you to kind of keep carrying on.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's we found that we have that in common in part. I mean, I do a lot of writing about politics on my Substack, and I've done some for other media, but political cartoons too, not just New Yorker. Uh, but we got to laugh too. That's the other thing, Steve. We got to figure, Steve, and we have to figure out a
Well,
way to
thank you.
laugh too, and how
Yeah,
to like keep
yeah.
our
Not a lot of this is very funny at the moment, to say the least. And
yeah.
and I think that's why, again, I'm sort of drawn to your drawing. I'm drawn to sort of people who are sort of trying to figure out different angles on how to respond to this in a way that's useful. It's really easy to gather all the facts and then just feel overwhelmed. The question is, okay, we sort of understand it now. Now what
Hmm.
do we do?
Hmm.
How do
Hmm.
we respond to it in a way that's going to
Hmm.
be productive?
Right. So you and I have, in the last couple of days, been making lists of things we wanted to talk about on this, and we may do this regularly. We're perhaps do this on a regular basis if you guys are interested in it. Hi, everybody. Good to see everybody here. I don't. It's hard to follow the stream that's coming in fast.
Yeah.
Um,
Fast
but
and furious. These are the times we're living in.
fast and furious. That's the topic of our conversation today.
Yeah.
I wanted to start in that direction because um, we heard Trump talk about taking over Gaza 2 days ago, and I kind of knew almost immediately that was an off the cuff remark and that it was intended, possibly intended to distract us. But also, I think he probably thinks it's a good idea
Right.
um, to develop and make condos in Gaza,
Right.
and kick everybody else out. But it's still on the front page of the New York Times, which drives me nuts. I mean, we're done talking about that idea. It's not an idea that had any merit, and he's withdrawn it for one thing. But it's a stupid idea, and it, the media. My point is the media just doesn't know how to move on, and I don't know why they do this. Not all media, but the New York Times in particular. Um,
Yeah, and again, what we've seen in these last weeks is this, from their side, this so-called shock and awe. Well, I'm not shocked, and I'm surely not awed, but I am overwhelmed, and that's sort of the goal of this, to overwhelm us
exactly.
with so much information and so many crazy things from so many directions that it makes it
Mhm.
hard to figure out where to focus. And
Right.
it's not hard to understand why an idea so extreme, so nuts, like essentially bulldozing Gaza and turning it into a luxury resort area is one that forces the media to respond. But I think it's important to sort of take that as an example of an effort to distract. So,
Yeah.
what we're not talking about, what the New York Times is not talking about, is the coup going on by Elon Musk and his band of reckless marauders who are inside the Treasury Department and inside the Department of Labor.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now getting into, as I understand it, sort of the education department, getting into all these databases, and
Hmm.
there's a response from lawsuits that are slowing down a little bit of this, but we don't know exactly how much damage has already been done, and it's clear that these things that Trump and company have been doing in Gaza and otherwise is just to shift attention away from the underlying acts of
Right.
destruction.
Right. And go ahead.
No, and I'm just saying it strikes me that the legacy media is once again failing in this moment
Hmm.
to differentiate which ones demand maximum attention and which ones can we wait
Hmm. I don't know
and
how
go
they work. I
another
mean,
day.
we both work for these publications, but I don't know how things work inside. But it's like, do they have metrics that say, oh, our readers want to know about the Gaza statement more than they want to know about Musk, and his five band of brothers in noodling in our computer systems. I mean, is it all about
Oh, and
sales?
do we need 7 stories on it,
Right.
that are all, like, on the
Right.
top of their
Right.
digital page? No, we don't, and look, I mean, the, USAID, story, and now I guess Trump today has talked about wanting to, close it down, and it based on a series of lies that they're all,
Right.
Marxist lunatics,
Right.
and,
I'm gonna read
and
it.
the media has been getting millions and millions of dollars, essentially claiming that media organizations are stealing money from USAID, when in fact it's like USAID people have gotten subscriptions to media organizations.
Right. No,
I
no,
mean,
I read that too this morning, and I have some quotes for you. Stephen Miller, his one of his people, which we know is from the past his past time in office. He's saying things like 98% of USAID workers voted for Kamala Harris. Well, where does he get that? And also, why does that matter? You shouldn't
right.
be getting rid of people just because they voted for somebody that's not your party. Um, and also, Musk has said USAID is full of radical left Marxists. Marxists. They're spreading. We know they spread lies, but they're doing it to bolster their case to doing these things, and also all the condoms that are being sent to Gaza. Apparently, um,
Look,
it's
I
anyway.
wrote about sociopathy today, right? And the current of sociopathy, which is, it's not only Trump, it's not only Musk, it's now sort of coursing through the Republican Party that's supporting these actions. And the USAID, I'm happy to see that there's been a strong kind of public response, whether it's been some elected officials or whether it's
Mhm.
been in these demonstrations of the last few
Right,
days,
right.
people talking about it. And this isn't complicated. The richest man in the world, who is now, in my view, illegally taken over the U.S. government through a coup, and taking control of our computer systems and databases, is interested in destroying USAID which is there to help starving children and to expand, medical treatment and to minimize
Mhm,
the possibility of spreading,
mhm,
serious diseases, tuberculosis, bird flu, etc., not just in the developing world, but so that it doesn't come to the United States. And so,
right.
this has long been, a soft power going back to, JFK when he launched it in 1961 with a really specific goal of trying to, make the world a safer
Yeah.
place, make the world a better place where people can live and live in a healthier way. And, you know, I mean, it just boggles my mind to think about somebody who has more than $400 billion, and this is how he thinks he should spend his time.
Well, I also read that, it has to do with China. USAID, by shutting down USAID, will enable China to do more things, and which also will be a gift. In other words, Musk, who wants to do business with China, um, continue to do business with China, will be giving them something that they will in turn have to give him. So, it's really about money in the end, right? It's really about money. They
Yeah,
don't care about people.
no,
But
no,
Steve,
I mean
Steve. Mhm,
it's maybe just an easy target. I think that might be part of it,
mhm.
that they thought it was an easy target. But again, at least my hope is it's the kind of thing that one, they can't just close it down. Congress, there is a
It's
Congress
illegal.
still.
Mhm,
They do still have some authority, I mean, at the moment.
mhm.
And so hopefully that makes a difference.
So, I said when we began this that I really didn't want too much whining, but I mean we have to do some because we have to
Yeah,
state the problem and then figure out, because everybody, I mean, most of our followers know the problem, right? Or they're aware of it, and I don't. The only thing I can offer here is bits and pieces of what I've read, and I'm hoping you're doing the same. And because we're only two people, and there's only so much we can read and figure out, and I'm trying to find out who's doing what, behind the scenes that we don't always hear about.
right.
Not Musk, but the Democrats and the opposition people. um, I know there's the judges are passing, stopping certain actions of Musk and Trump. um, and that's good. They're temporary. I saw talk of impeachment proceedings starting, but again, impeachment is just symbolic at this point in
Yeah.
my mind. It doesn't really do anything. We know that in the end he will never be um, convicted of in an impeachment hearing. He'll just be impeached. Um, so I don't know what else is going on. I wanted to mention a few people that I follow to try to hear what's going on. Like Chris, Senator Chris Murphy in Connecticut is really active in this, and he's really pissed off, and he's really does a lot of stuff on his Instagram. So I would suggest following him to see what he's doing and how what he's doing inside the Senate. Um, of course, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Hakeem Jeffries, Elizabeth Warren, they're all very involved in doing something to oppose this. I don't know what it is though. And Kara Swisher, do you
Mhm.
follow her?
I
I think
do.
she's
Yeah.
fantastic. And I just watched something with her this morning where she's talking about the legacy media. She's actually talking to Aaron Burnett on CNN, and she said, you guys are just giving them what they want. They'll say, well, there need to be cuts in the government, the way the government works. Yeah, and so the legacy media will say, yeah, that's true. We probably do need cuts. That's like that's there's it, I have no words.
I mean, the thing that I appreciate about Chris Murphy, and I would add to your list, Jamie Raskin. I mean,
Oh, of
they
course,
are,
yes. Mhm.
they both grasp that this is a constitutional crisis, and
Yeah,
there is urgency.
right.
So, I think the key is the people who are recognizing the urgency of the moment. Timothy Snyder, the author of On
Oh,
Tyranny, and the
yes, right. I just followed
historian,
him the other day. Everybody, if
he's
you don't
somebody
follow
to
Timothy,
follow. Yeah,
follow
and
him.
he's the one who essentially coined the notion of, don't obey in advance. And in this moment he's said it clearly. This is a coup. If you don't recognize it, then all you do is give the
Right.
coup
Right.
members sort of more time to advance.
Right.
If you care about our constitutional republic, then you need to act now. And you know, again, there's whether it's the New York Times or other legacy media, or whether it's sort of members of Congress who are still talking about like working with the Republicans, or are
You
still
know,
thinking that it's okay just to go out and do a presentation, rather than saying concretely, what are they doing? I mean, I look at somebody like Norm Eisen, who's like who's a lawyer and has been involved with the lawsuit that was just advanced to stop the intrusion of the Treasury records,
mhm,
and that was sort of in a coalition with a number of federal unions.
mhm,
So, I mean, I think we have to. I talk about the idea like we have to look for the helpers, look for the first responders,
right.
look for the people who understand there's a five-alarm fire, and emphasize, spotlight them, take nourishment from them,
Exactly.
reach out to them, and
Mhm,
reach out to others who don't seem to grasp that, and
right.
let them know that you recognize how urgent this moment
Uh-huh.
is.
And also, two things. Chris Murphy, I just was looking at his Instagram feed to see if there's anything new, and he has a post who says, "Donate. I need your help to do this work." And I gave
Mm,
him $35. So that,
mm.
that has to be of some help. Anyway, I also wanted to point
You
out
think $35 is the right amount? Would you recommend less? Would you recommend more? I mean, what's
to
the
save our democracy.
yeah? How much should it cost? I
Maybe,
don't know.
maybe some more. I don't know. Maybe a little bit more. But that's what I gave today. Maybe I'll give more tomorrow. Um, But the other thing I wanted to mention was that another person I love to follow is Heather Cox Richardson,
Right.
who I know a lot of my followers know I talk about her all the time.
A
And
lot of mine follow her as well. Yeah.
she said the other day um, that many of the things that we're saying now, but she also said if you know people that voted for Trump, try to talk to them as well, and don't make it partisan. Don't make it like you're crazy or whatever. Make it a conversation, or try to make it a conversation, and say, well, don't you love your democracy? I mean, I don't know how you would phrase it, because that sounds hostile, but you know and I'm not one that knows any Trump supporters, frankly, so I don't I'm not proud of that. I just don't. But that's another way to go about it, is try to make this not about us versus you. It's about something that we hold dear and that we don't want to lose, and we're at risk of losing it.
So, I'm going to disagree with you here, which is that in this moment, I've always been one who sort of said like let's find out how do we find unity, how do we work together, how do we do those things. Again, right now it's about putting out a fire. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we need to think about what the future looks like and what we're fighting for, and that is things like kindness and equality compassion and decency and all of
Mhm.
those sort of things. But I said this in the first term of Trump. When the house is when the house is on fire, focus on putting out the fire.
No, I agree. No, I get your
And I
point.
think there aren't enough people, who are in positions of leadership who are treating this moment with the urgency that it demands. And I don't know why they imagine that somehow that the old ways of doing these things are going to somehow, lead to a different outcome than they have before.
No,
Because
I don't disagree, and by
yeah,
saying that, I just meant, um, don't demonize the other side.
yeah.
So because that doesn't do anything, that makes it worse. But you're right. I think we have to figure out how to support those that are on the, really doing the work, trying to stop the takeover.
Can I suggest we talk for a moment? And I don't want this to sound like a rant either, but I do think I've been trying to ring the alarm bell about the danger of Russell Vought
Yes.
for a period of time. I mean, I wrote something probably I'm going to say a month ago, which I called sort of the two faces of fascism. Well, one of those faces was Kash Patel, who's ready to be as vengeful and vicious as Trump wants and taking over the FBI. And the second is Russell Vought, who has now been confirmed, last night as the director, the head of the Office of Management and Budget. And, this is a guy who's done this job before in the first term, and who is a viciously smart guy who does not believe in democratic process, who is interested in prioritizing Christianity in government, who's interested in this unitary idea of the presidency, which is to say to give Donald Trump maximum power and control, and to end the independence of essentially every agency in the government.
Mm,
This is the guy who said, a year or 2 years ago in a public forum, that he wants this period to be one where the federal employees are traumatized, right? That by traumatizing them, it allows them to advance their mission right now, and move as aggressively as they can. And the thing why he's so important is a lot of these, Trump nominees or now confirmed secretaries and so forth, they're not necessarily as smart or competent. This guy is quite competent and knows how the mechanisms of government work, and therefore knows how to manipulate them in this period. So
mm,
I just urge people to pay attention to what he's doing at OMB as
mhm,
at least one point of focus.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. And do you think RFK Jr. is going to be put
I
through?
mean, I don't think they're going to say no to any of these lunatics.
Yeah.
He's another danger. And
Right.
look, I mean, the other piece of this, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm ranting, but I mean, the other, now they're shutting down websites. They've gotten into, as I understand it, in the Department of Labor's Bureau of Labor Statistics, which controls the data that gathers and distributes the data on things like unemployment and consumer prices and so forth. Well, and now you have these kind of guys, and I'm talking about RFK Jr., where they're not going to tell the truth about what's happening. So we don't
No.
really know what the economy is doing.
Right.
We don't
Right.
really know what the state of public health is. They're going to manipulate their positions to make it all seem like everything's fine when it isn't.
Exactly.
I mean,
Right.
I think we have to
Justify.
assume that.
Hmm. Yeah. They're going to twist the facts to justify, even if they do tell us. Um,
Yeah,
we'll be
somebody
happy.
noted, by the way, and I think they're quite right. I mean, also it's worth noting about Russell Vought that he was in one of the principal authors of Project
Right.
2025.
Right. That's right. So, Stephen, what what
So
else?
I'm
I mean,
having a good day. How about you?
yeah. I did a drawing last night on my Substack of occasionally I do political cartoons on my Substack, and this was a big monitor with the word news on it. I watched the news on my computer, and is a drawing of a person. It's me really sort of trying to walk away from
Mm,
the news,
yeah,
but looking back at it, and the news is saying, "Come over here," um, and it's this fear. And I used to get up every morning, I still do, and read the news, but now it's harder to go to the outlets, and I go now to a lot more outlets than I used to.
yeah.
I used to rely on the Washington Post, the New York Times. I stopped looking at the Washington Post.
I
Sadly,
urge people to look at the Guardian. I
the
think the
Guardian,
Guardian.
that's where I go now. Guardian
Yeah,
and, Politico, Access, I don't know, there's a bunch, but anyway, my point is, it's hard to read the news now,
yeah,
but we have to do it. We can't look away now. It's I'm sorry, guys. I know
yeah.
many of
Look,
you.
I mean, I think that's a dialogue that we all have to have with ourselves. I mean, I'm there's no question that I've cut back on my cable television consumption.
Me
I'm
too.
trying because I just can't go on hour after hour just sort of indulging myself in it. That I
Mhm.
realize it's not productive. Know what I need to know, and then step back. That's important. And look, since the election. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with people who are saying like, I can't deal with it. I'm out. And I understand that. And I tried to encourage people to, as much as they can, to stay engaged. And we all have to find our way to do that in a way that's healthy.
Yeah.
Spend more time with your family, spend more time with your pets,
Mhm.
do more drawing. In my case, weirdly, it means sort of do more writing.
Mhm.
That's healthy for me.
Right.
Go out to dinner more often rather than
Right.
watch the news. But
Right.
the thing I want to say is that there was nothing more that these authoritarians want than for us to be overwhelmed and to
Mhm.
give up, to
Mhm.
feel resigned or fearful or convinced that there's nothing we can do, and just
Right.
to get caught up in feelings of despair. I mean,
Right.
that's how they win.
That's exactly right. That's how they win, by making us feel, uh, that we're not in a community, making us feel like we have no hope. Um, so we have to keep on it. And I think one of my jobs is to just inform people who don't have the time that I do to read the article or read the news. I try to be as clear as I can about that.
Right.
I'm not perfect, but I will try to give my followers a little snippet of what I've learned that day, because I know people are either a too exhausted to pay attention, or don't have the time. They've got 3 jobs or something, So
Yeah.
um, I feel fortunate to be able to read the news the way I can, and draw about it if I feel it will help.
Yeah, I
So
mean, look, I mean, I do feel like the importance of the communities that we're building are have never been more important. I mean, I thought that was what I was going to do when I started America America. Now going back unbelievably 4 years ago,
mhm,
and the truth is, really since the election, it's been growing an awful lot, and I think it's because people do, want to find sort of like-minded people and a chance to
yeah,
sort of share.
right,
Their ideas and share what they're going through
right.
and listen to and learn from others. And so
Mhm, mhm.
I don't know about you, but I'm finding that in some ways, at least my writing, it's gotten harder because it not only like it's making the decision of where to focus, but also to be able to do it in a way that it's not just in essence shoving people's face in the horror of it, but
Right.
helping people to find their way through this,
Mhm.
both to understand it, but also to understand this is not the end of the story, right? That we have to
Right.
figure out how to think our way through to the future.
That's right. I think there is hope, and I think Chris Murphy said that it's not over.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's not over. We have ways to fight this, and um,
Plenty of Americans have been through worse throughout our history. So let's also
totally.
not indulge ourselves in the idea that, like, oh, poor us. We're dealing with the worst thing ever.
That's a great point. You think back to the Civil War, the post-Civil War Reconstruction era, and that I've been reading books about that.
We've lost you for a moment.
Um, yeah, somebody was calling me, a spam call, probably Musk. um, no, I don't think myself that important, but anyway, um, yeah, reading
But it,
about the Reconstruction era, and
yeah,
how corrupt things were, and the Republican, well, it was the Democrats back then, but how bad things were. But that's another.
but
We could talk
also,
about that another time, huh?
yeah, and but also, I mean, Ulysses S. Grant, who was the president of the United States, they formed the first Justice Department in that period, and they did it specifically because the KKK was really operating as a terrorist organization and
Yes.
was murdering blacks sort of throughout the South as a response to their growing power. So, I
Mhm.
mean, these struggles have been going on for an awfully long time.
Right.
So,
That gives
I
me
mean,
hope. That gives me hope.
take strength from that and know that there's
Mhm.
a way through all of this. That's sort of my view.
Well, I
You
think
know,
that's a good place to end. Take strength on this the the resilience
yeah,
of our our citizens, and the system is not perfect, and we have not certainly not been perfect. That's an understatement, but we have the good structure of a system that works very well, and,
Yeah,
I think we'll
and in the
start.
and I think in the end, I mean, it's be engaged, be in the fight, be in the opposition, but also try to remember what we're fighting for.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank
It's
you.
fun.
That was interesting and fun. I learned a lot,
Me too.
and I feel better. Um,
Good.
so I hope
Hope everyone
everybody.
found something of value here and look forward to
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
it
Let
again.
us know what you think. Give us some feedback,
Please,
and we'll do this again. I bet we'll do it next week, right? At some point.
we can find a time. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Liza.
Bye. Find the there. Where is it?